Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Sir Wade in case you're new here, and today we're going to be checking out a panel called Demo Reels and Recruiting, How to Get and Keep Your Dream Job. This panel was put together by Animation Mentor, hence the shirt. It's not sponsored. They asked me to moderate the panel, which had industry recruiters, the people who are going to hire you into the industry, and a super talented animator who you'll recognize in just a moment. And they said that if I wanted to, I could film the whole panel and share it with you here on YouTube, which of course we're going to do. So thank you, Animation Mentor, for first of all inviting me and letting me be a part of such a cool panel. It was really awesome, and thank you for letting me share this on YouTube. Animation Mentor, as you guys know, as I've talked about, is all about helping the community, helping students like you grow and learn and get into the industry. So a link to the school down below, and also thank you to so many of you guys who actually came and said hi at CTN. I met a whole bunch of you. It was super awesome. It was like my favorite part of the entire event, was just running into a bunch of you, hanging out, chatting, taking pictures. It was a super cool experience, and I can't wait to see you all at the next event. But with that, let's jump into the panel. Enjoy. Welcome to today's panel. Hopefully everybody's having a good second day of CTN, and we're going to make it even better with the best panel of the day. Thank you for coming. No pressure. This is Demo Reels and Recruiting, How to Get and Keep Your Dream Job, as you probably know. Today we have quite a bit of wisdom. I'm going to let everyone here do their own introductions.
My name is Shawn Kelly. I'm one of the co-founders of Animation Mentor. And yeah, woo! And I've also been working at ILM, which was and is my dream job for 23 years.
I'm Deb Stone. I am the Director of Recruiting and Talent Development over at Blue Sky. Hey.
I am Lori Beck. I'm a recruiter at ILM, and I work with Shawn to help recruit a bunch of talented people.
Yay.
And I am Robin Linn. I'm with Netflix Animation. I'm a recruiter and talent development.
So I hope you're all ready to take lots of notes. So, and I'm Sir Wade. I do YouTube character animation videos. I do character animation videos on YouTube, and I'm an animator, and I went to Animation Mentor, so yeah.
An awesome guy.
Thank you.
All the above.
So, let's jump into it. First thing we're going to go into, too far, is demo reels. Anybody in here interested in knowing more about demo reels? Just a few of you. Okay, got it. We have prepared some different questions that we think probably you guys might have, and we want to do a Q&A at the end as well. So if you've got questions, hang on to them. We do want to get to as many as we possibly can. So here we go. Something that they get lots of questions about, not me. Can you send people to a social media account to view a portfolio reel? Is that okay? What do you guys think about that? Deb?
Since those are my initials, I guess I'll take it. So, I think it's really important. Your online presence is one of the most important things you can curate right now. And keeping separate from your personal social and your professionalism online is a really important thing. And having a site that we as recruiters can easily find, and that is curated just to be your reel or portfolio, and no ancillary extra things on there. It's fine if it, on your website, there's kind of different tabs, and it's, okay, this is my reel, this is some of my personal work, this is my, life drawings and things like that, and you just have it in different areas of your website, but it's really important that it's clean and concise, and we can get to it, and we can find what we're looking for, because you never know when we are all searching on the interwebs to find people like you. So make sure that your passwords are, unless it's something so important that you can't have online, but that we can get access to your reel easily. Do you guys have anything else to add on that?
It drives me absolutely crazy when students or recent grads password protect their demo reels. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why you're hiding what you're doing, right? Unless it's embargoed work that you've been told you can't show this until the show is in production or is in the theater, there's no reason to password protect. No one is going to steal your stuff. And you should make it as easy and simple and basic for those of us to find your work as is possible. We're pushing through volume, right? If I've got an hour to search, I need to find you immediately. What I would recommend is turn to your friend to go try and find my online presence in as few clicks as possible. And then work up and make those clicks fewer and fewer and fewer to make it easier for recruiters to find your stuff. And that's the most challenging thing we've got.
Yeah. Here's a little tip when I'm searching for people. And if I know the person's name, I will Google the name and either art or portfolio after their name. So just make sure, I don't know how all that really works. But if there's like some way you can embed those words into your into your online portfolio, figure that out, because that's what I search.
How many of you have LinkedIn accounts? How many of you have a valid email address that's easy to find on that LinkedIn account?
And a portfolio link on your account.
Right. Or on your Instagram, right? We should be able to find you really fast.
Mm-hmm.
With that, an additional question for you. When you see someone's portfolio, do you care when it's a Wix site, wix.com/da-da-da-da-da? Do you need to revisit it, have an easy thing, or do you just Google it? Like the URL. That was a terrible question.
Oh, like a complicated URL.
Yeah, complicated URL versus having your own website or being on Instagram or somewhere more mainstream.
I mean, for me, it doesn't matter as long as you can, as long as we can get to it easily. That's all we care about. But just remember, it's not only the recruiters that are looking at it, it's the supervisors, the ones who are going to be making the decisions on your work. So you want to show that you're organized, all your details are intact. They can count on you to provide information that they need. If you need to put a demo reel breakdown, don't forget that either. Just remember, it's not just recruiters. It's people that are going to be deciding on your career.
Yeah, we pass your work along. So we'll do an initial vetting. When work comes in, we look through the buckets like, okay, this person's good, this person maybe not so much. Those get sent over to the supervisors who then do another vetting, and then they get back to us with who they want to talk to. So we're like the first screen you have to get through.
Awesome. Once the demo reel gets through, it exists. What should be on it? What do you guys think are some of the do's and don'ts?
I'll give a couple of those. One that I think had its moment in the sun that we don't necessarily want to see much more anymore is we get so many demo reels that have shot after shot on the same reel of people sitting and it's just I see like shoulders and head talking, sometimes not moving at all. Sometimes it's just like a facial animation test, which is great for practice. But a performance has so much to do with the body language and head gestures. And when it's just an isolated face, I don't think you're really showing off exactly what you're hoping to. So at least for us at ILM, that's something that kind of stands out. And watch out for too many shots of just sitting. I like to tell people to get more ing shots on their reel that are other ing words. Walking, kicking, punching, dying, throwing, climbing, like anything other than just sitting there. So if you're going to start a new shot for your reel, I think it's a great idea to combine like an acting and an action performance. And if you find a cool bit of dialogue, have a character, get up from the diner booth and do something while they're talking. Yeah. That way you're showing off a wider skill set.
Acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. One thing too, just to note. Like know who you're applying to, right? Like ILM versus Blue Sky versus Netflix. Like we're all looking for kind of different things and curate your reel in a way to be who you are and who you want to be and the kind of company that you want to work for. But one of our animation soups used to get so frustrated over seeing like the super dramatic like guy at a bar animation where it's just like, ugh, had a bad day, and it's like that's not what we're doing. We're making entertainment. We're entertaining families, and yes, like you want to see some like subtle, quiet, moments and nuances in your animation, but it's the drama versus the entertainment value that you kind of have to really understand that there's a difference there.
Well, you kind of opened up a window on get to know the studio that you're applying to, right? So if you're applying to ILM, it's a very different reel than Blue Sky. You're going to have multiple reels. It's not going to be, I have one animation reel that I'm sending out to the world. You're going to have to customize that. You're going to bespoke reels for every studio you look at.
And sometimes, especially when you're starting out, you don't have content for, a whole bunch of completely different reels. But it might be the same exact content, just cut differently, different shots in different orders to highlight different skills and different styles for different studios. At least making it bespoke in that sense, I think, is smart.
Going off that, what about people who they may do animation and a few other things they've been dabbling? Should they put all of it on the same reel, or should they do an animation reel, a generalist reel. What are your take on what should be on the reel?
You gonna take that one, Deb?
My personal feature animation opinion on that is to have two different reels. Especially if it's a generalist reel versus, right? Like there's certain disciplines that speak to each other, that their skill sets are related. So, modeling and let's say like texturing. All right, but like when I'm showing a modeling reel to my, supervisors in modeling, they don't care about the texture as much. So, it's okay to kind of have both of those, but I wouldn't have everything under the sun, because then especially if it's generalist, then it's too little of everything, so you're not getting enough of one thing.
Same at ILM. I know that the modeling supervisors want to see modeling reels that are not textured. They want to see it shaded, but also wireframe, turntables, not animated. That's what they're looking to see. Sorry, did I just step right on you?
No. I like it when, like, if you have your website and you have like a different bucket for each thing that you do, like rigging and animation and generalist, because I know that sometimes the soups do, even the animation soups want to see, oh, they do some rigging, let me see. And they want to actually see, oh, they're generalists, well, what can they do? I mean, so they are interested, but if you just have it organized, I think it's better.
Awesome. Well, once the demo reel goes in and you like it, we're so far so good, the interview is probably the next thing that we want to get into. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
here's a hopefully an easy one. Dress code?
This is casual.
Yeah, I'm a big planner, so when I was interviewing at a studio, I would go hang out in front of the studio and see how the people were dressed, and then try to dress slightly better than they did.
Just
Luckily,
make sure no one sees
this is
you.
an animation, so if you wore shoes, you were slightly better dressed than most. But I would try and do that because they already have the job. They're not trying to impress anybody. But I went in, it's like, I'm going to dress slightly better than they do.
I'd say, though, in animation, like not wearing a suit to your interview is,
That's like
yeah.
man has entered the forest, Bambi, right? We see a suit and we think auditors are on campus or something.
Yeah, I think you can overdress or underdress, but there's a really wide window in between of, what's fine, I think.
Yeah.
I think looking like you actually care about getting the job is probably a good move.
No flip-flops.
I don't know if there's a question that leads to this, but this also applies to video conferences, like video interviews. So don't. Someone once told me, and I'm not. I don't want to disclose which studio it was. That someone was in an interview and got up, and they were in boxers on a video, and they didn't think they were going to stand up, but they did. And anyway, so. Make sure you're dressed professionally, even on a video, and full-bodied clothes.
Well, going with doing your research and more than just the clothes, anything else that people should kind of come in prepared with that studio?
Oh boy, this is a can of worms. You all have access to a computer. Go on to sites like Glassdoor, read about the studio, read about the culture, go onto their website, find their culture memo, find their mission statement, really dig into it, and see if it aligns with your own personal beliefs. If it doesn't, don't apply there, right? You have to, like I think I put in my notes that I sent off, you can love chocolate but not want to work in a chocolate factory, right? So don't just fall in love with the studio's product, fall in love with how they do it, what their work-life balance is, what their executive team looks like, what the churn is. All of this stuff is available online that you can do before the interview. Because I think people think the interview is just the candidate asking questions, or answering questions. And it's also them asking us questions. Ask the panelists, why do you like it there? What do you hate about your job? How long have you been here? Really dig in and see if it's something you want to work at.
Yeah, even like I'm just scanning through the last project, even if you don't want to watch the whole thing. Just at least you have some idea of what projects they've worked on. If you're asked, and what's your favorite project we ever did, have an answer for that. and I had one more thing you just said that I can't remember.
We used to get and when I was at Sony,
Yeah.
oh, I loved Happy Feet. Yeah, that's great. We did Surf's Up.
Yeah. That happened to me the other day.
We work on a pretty wide variety of movies at ILM, and some of them are definitely better than others of them. And we get the opposite of that sometimes, or related kind of, where somebody will single out a movie or two to poop on in the interview, which often isn't the best idea, because you don't know who in that room worked on what, or who is responsible for what, and yeah, something came to mind.
And I just remembered what my other thought was. You were talking about having questions to ask about the interviewers, but just having questions to ask in your interview is important because people want to see that you care either about the job, the tasks, or the human beings that you're interviewing with. So even if you sometimes, depending on the interview, you might have to interview with like a couple of groups of people in that studio. So just because you asked all of the questions in your first group interview doesn't mean you shouldn't re-ask them, even though you may be bored listening to the same response. At least seems like you're engaging with them. And ask the personal questions like, why do you like working here? You know, what's your favorite part of working here? It's the engagement they want to see, that you care about the human side of it too.
And not asking questions is actually a ding, right? If I go through the interview feedback, inevitably someone on my panel say, didn't ask me any questions about the job. Don't move forward. Like we want curious people. We want people who come in who have invested. And if you don't ask any questions, it just tells us, well, you're kind of going through the formalities, but you don't really care. Well, why should we care so much about you?
Also, subconsciously, I think it seems a little more professional. It seems like you have options if you're asking questions, rather than just, please, I'll do anything, which, maybe is really the truth, but doesn't feel quite as professional.
So let's go to the next section, collaboration. So, you get in. Congratulations, you've been hired. Woo! What are some of the things that, when you're just starting out, like you need to keep in mind? Like first week, first month, what are some of the most important things getting into an environment like this?
I'll jump on this one just for a second. When you very first started a studio, one thing to figure out is the hierarchy, kind of as quickly as you can. And that could just be talking to the person that you're sitting next to, or paying close attention in dailies for who's getting notes from who. I think it's useful for you to figure out who is your direct supervisor and who is their supervisor. There's probably like a director, maybe an animation director, and maybe animation leads, and then you, if you're new. And it's a dangerous thing to take notes out of that hierarchy. Like, respect the process, respect that hierarchy. If your lead gives you a note, it's probably not a good idea to ignore that note. It's probably a bad idea to show the supervisor before showing your lead. Like, if people feel like they're not a part of the process, then I think that the process exists for a reason, and it's for efficiency. It's important to respect that.
And the knowledge of a hierarchy, I imagine not a lot of entry-level people have much knowledge of it. Is that something that makes a big deal when you're recruiting somebody for an entry-level job?
No, I mean, I think we all know that, you're new to a studio, you could be new to the industry, and every studio does things differently. But what you should do is you should definitely be like a sponge, okay? Be enthusiastic about wanting to learn everything about hierarchy, process, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, where do you go to get resources, who do you ask for help, have, notebook, paper, pen, be prepared. Get to whatever meetings or dailies you need to get to on time. You want to show that you're enthusiastic, you want to be there, they can count on you, you're going to kick butt, you're going to be a team player, you're going to do everything that you need to get the best images on screen, because that's what everyone wants to do, right? You all want to make sure that your movie that you're working on is going to be the best and you're going to be proud of it. So in order to do that, you have to work together, and working together involves a lot of things, not only just communicating well, but making sure that you're going to ask questions. Don't wait too long where you're going down the wrong path. You want to share your knowledge as well and not keep everything to yourself, because it's everyone's, work that's putting that movie on the screen. So, yeah.
I think this goes a lot into communicating with everybody around you. When you get in there and you get the job, there's a lot of people to work with. You're kind of already getting into like why that's important, but I guess what are some of the pitfalls that like you can fall into if you're not communicating properly?
My favorite is the I couldn't figure this out, so I sat on this shot for 2 days trying to figure it out myself and didn't raise my hand and ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. There's entire departments that are animation support that's what they do, is support you guys. If you run into something that's a challenge, don't be afraid to raise your hand. Now, if it happens on the same problem multiple times, that might be an issue, but everyone's allowed to make mistakes. Everyone's allowed to be new. Everyone's allowed to fumble around a little bit and get better.
And also, everyone's there to support each other, right? And so I think about animators and our animation team, and when they're, someone's trying to shoot reference, and they just can't get to that acting beat or something about that shot that they're struggling with, and they go to another animator and say, "Can you do my reference for me?" And everyone's there to support each other and help. So don't be afraid to go to your coworker and say, I need you to do this acting for me because I'm not finding it. So, find support around you, even if it's not necessarily up. It's there for your, in your peer group too.
Early on at ILM, I made the exact mistake that Robin was just talking about, and I got a good piece of advice after some admonishment about it, to try to follow they said follow the 15-minute rule. Like, try to figure it out yourself for 15 minutes. If you haven't figured it out, stop trying to figure it out and start asking people around you, or send out an email. Or if you're at home, that would mean like get on Google or talk to your mentor or whatever. Like, try to figure it out, but don't sink your whole day into it.
And once you're working on something like that, how does speed play a role? Like 15 minutes sounds like you're trying to be courteous of obviously time of the production. How, when you're starting out, does speed matter? How much does that matter?
Well, speed is really important when you're new. We talked about this a little bit at the fireside chat, that getting animation blocking out quickly is something that will be really appreciated by the director and by your supervisors, because they'll have an opportunity to iterate and flag issues early. So one of the big mistakes is, not just sitting on a shot and not working on it for 2 days because you can't figure out what to do. Another big mistake is just sitting on it or like hiding it for a week, and maybe you are working on it, but you're not showing anybody. And maybe you're taking it way further than the supervisors expect it to be taken in this round. And you're doing a bunch of things that maybe aren't right for the moment or the movie. And then when you do show it, the reaction inside of them might be like, oh my God, I wish I saw a way rougher, uglier version of this 3 days ago, because I could have told you we're not doing this, and this character never does this type of move. And so getting issues flagged early is great for efficiency for the project, and that's really appreciated by the supervisors.
I want to transition a little bit to feedback. When you're doing all this kind of work creatively, starting with recruiting, do you guys ever give feedback, and like how do you expect candidates to kind of take that feedback?
All the time.
Well, we hope they take it well. Various studios have various cultures. Netflix culture is built upon a foundation of very candid feedback. So if I get artwork coming through that doesn't quite meet the bar, it's on me to reach back to that candidate and go, this is what we're seeing and this is what we're not seeing. I'm giving you this as a gift, right? Feedback is a gift. I don't want you to continue to do something that isn't constructive, so I'm going to help you out along the way. But we get various responses back, like very offended to thank you so much.
I mean, I've seen personally feedback that, I met someone here at CTN, I gave them feedback on their reel, then I saw them again at a school visit, and by the time they applied to our internship program, I saw the feedback had changed their reel, and they got the internship program.
That's the best.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not anyone in, any area, whether recruiters or artists who are giving feedback on reels, it's only to support and help people grow, and if we say, like, you might want to take that piece off your reel, it's because we know that if we show that to the supervisor, in modeling or in rigging, they're going to be like, oh God, why did I see that? And it's the worst piece on your reel or your portfolio that always gets picked on by the supervisors and the hiring managers. So, we try to help kind of guide that and get people to kind of curate their reels so that way when we're showing it, it's the best work that we can see.
Yeah, I always feel like your demo reel is only as good as the worst thing on it. I think that's a good rule of thumb. And feedback is how you can figure out what that piece is. And there's no shame in hearing that. And when you cut that out or add something new and resubmit it, there's not going to be any lingering like, oh, I'm not going to watch her reel again. It had that shot on it. They'll watch it again, and there won't be any judgment about what the reel used to be. The judgment will be about what the reel is right now.
And once you get into production, you're working on shots, and you're getting actual day-to-day feedback, or however often that is. Say you have to redo a bunch of work. You get a note that's kind of a big one.
That's never happened to me. No, that's not true. It's all the time.
What do you do? How do you handle that?
Well, this is something that we talked a little bit at the fireside chat last night also, but I think it bears repeating. Something that helps me in those situations where I've animated something and maybe I'm really excited about it and the director poops all over it, or it's just wrong, or they radically change what the shot is supposed to be. That can very easily be soul-crushing and hard to get past, but it helps me to keep in mind that it's not mine. And my job is to take that director's vision and try to put her vision up on the screen and add what I can to it to make it even cooler than she thought it was going to be, or more powerful than she thought it was going to be, or whatever. So if I haven't done what she wants, then that needs to be okay. So it helps me to keep in mind that I'm a tool in the same way that Maya is my tool to animate, I'm her tool to animate. And it's not my shot, it's her shot. And if I can keep that in my mind, that helps me get through that moment.
Should you be afraid to delete work? If the shot gets a note and you're like, oh, it's going to delete a lot of my stuff.
No, a lot of times it's easier to just blow something away and reanimate it from scratch. And there's other times where that's not true at all. It really depends on the situation. But yeah, I would always, like, if the note is big enough, take a step back and think about, should I just shoot some new reference and reapproach this in a new way? It might go a lot faster.
Next up, all of this is a learning experience, obviously. You got to grow. You have to improve. So when you get to the studio, congratulations, you're done learning. Or not? Shawn, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
No, yeah, you're never done learning. Animation is too big to ever know everything about it. So you're going to be an animation student for life, I hope. I am. Bobby is. I told the story last night about how Bobby taught me that. He randomly happened to sit next to an ILM animator on an airplane. And she was telling me, they were telling me the story later, but he just introduced himself to her as an animation student, even though he was a big shot Pixar animator at the time. He just said, oh yeah, I'm an animation student, and they talked about animation like all during the flight. And that always stayed with me. That was like 20 years ago or something, but I thought that was really great, just to have that mentality that it doesn't matter if you're at your dream job, you need to still be an animation student. Otherwise, you're going to plateau, everybody's going to pass you up, and pretty soon you won't have that dream job anymore.
As you're growing and as you're learning stuff, what is some advice to get better, to look at your work and to improve it, to evaluate yourself?
You have to be able to separate who you are from your work, right? You have to be able to be agnostic to it. The expression used to be kill your darlings, right? If something is, like, I love working on that shot, it's fantastic, but all your friends are going, it's the weakest piece on your reel, you've got to be comfortable just cutting that. And that's really challenging because that might be something you really pulled your passion into, but if it's not displaying your talent to the best of its ability, you've got to be comfortable letting that go.
What are some of the wrong things to do when you get feedback? Because feedback can be harsh. Feedback doesn't always come.
Cry.
Just don't cry. Yeah. Just try to hold it together.
That can be hard sometimes. You guys are laughing, but we've seen people cry.
A lot of people cry.
Yeah, well, directors are not exactly known for their hand-holding skills. And remember, you're in a darkened theater, they see the slate go up, they see the shot, and whatever comes out of their mouth is going to be whatever it comes out. And I've heard animators slowly crumple and cry in the back of a theater when the director has just been ripping the hell out of their shot.
I'm not saying it's not okay to cry. You just hold it together for that moment. Yeah, like go to the bathroom. or go for a walk, right? just hold it together while you're in front of the person giving you that feedback. Okay, got it. Okay, and then go.
Don't get defensive. Like, don't get defensive. Don't challenge. Like, why'd you think that? Not going to go well? Yeah.
Don't lash out.
Yeah, no lashing
You know
out.
what? Just take some time to think about it, because there's a lot that's going into that feedback. You know, it could be the environment, something that happened to the director or your supervisor. You know, whatever's going on in your own situation. So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Just let it rest for a little while, and then think about it before you reply or give your input.
Another thing to keep in mind in that situation is that there's a fine line between raising a legitimate red flag or pushing back a little for some legitimate reason of like, oh, well, he's there because this and this and the other shot. Do you want us to readjust those shots to make this work or whatever? There's a fine line between that and sounding like you're just making excuses. 90 times out of 100, it's best just to say, okay. But there are those 10 times where the director might really value hearing what the reason is or the issue is, and that might lead to a conversation that still doesn't result in the animation that you currently have, but will find a path to something that works better than what they just said.
It sounds like how you communicate that's going to be very important.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, attitude is important in that situation, and I think keeping in mind the hierarchy and where you are in it is important for how you're replying, especially if it's the director, you know.
So when it comes to working on these shots, you're working on, whatever it is, if it's animation, modeling, it's a lot of work. It's hard work. You may be really passionate about it. And sometimes you wonder, what's more important, to be really passionate or to work really hard?
They're the same. They go together. I think hard work comes from your being passionate about what you're doing, and because you care about it and you're interested in it. So I think they go hand in hand, and one is the result of the other.
Awesome.
You know, kind of leaning into that, though, I'll take someone with passion and good attitude as opposed to someone who may be an exceptionally skilled artist who has a really crappy attitude, right? I think we all have experience with, I'll use the term, the brilliant asshole, right? And we've done our best to weed those out of the garden.
Yeah.
So being a good person is more important than being the best.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I have a great example of that where we were interviewing 2 animators from a big-time studio to come work with us on the first Transformers movie. And one of the demo reels was a little bit better than the other one. It wasn't like way better, but it had a little more advanced shots and it was better. But then in the interviews, the one with the slightly less good reel was way more enthusiastic and excited to be a part of the project. And the other one was like, they put flames on Optimus Prime, and he was kind of like, clearly wasn't like super into it. And even though he had a little more experience, a little bit better shots, it was a no-brainer to go with the less experienced person who had the passion and potential to be great. He worked with us forever and became a supervisor. He's awesome. So
Write that one down. So getting into career stuff, because it's really where you want to be, right? You're new. You just started at the studio. You're working on stuff. What does your first pass look like?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit already, but it should look rough. Blocking should be the least number of poses possibly needed to tell the story and sell the emotion. That's it. Like, so whatever is the least possible amount of work to show something, and especially if you're new, your lead is not going to expect it to look awesome. Your supervisors are not going to expect it to look awesome and polished. They want that chance to flag issues early, to have a chance to iterate with you. So yeah, I would say first pass should, I mean, for us, the first pass could be pencil thumbnail drawings. Sometimes people just show some video reference and describe, like, okay, so it's going to be kind of like this, but I'm going to add this kind of thing, and then maybe it'll go over here. And that's enough for me to say, okay, yeah, let's try a super rough version of that, and let's see what it looks like. That's almost like a pre-blocking pass, but it is a chance for us to say, oh, wait, don't do that because X, Y, Z.
And backing up a little bit to, you're just getting the job, like, whoop, there it is. What next? Basically, like, what do you need to bring into the workplace? Let's go with Lori.
Oh, I feel like I've answered this. Yeah, I mean, bring your enthusiasm, bring your pad of paper and your pencil. You know, bring your the attitude that you want to learn as much as you can, because you have to. I mean, in order to, you know, begin this job, and just be conscientious. You know, do everything whereby it's gonna show just how great of an animator you're going to be and all the potential that you have, and they're going to be excited to give you a bunch of work that you can work on. Just be really good. Bring your best. Bring your best self, bring your best effort, bring your best work.
What should they leave behind?
Their attitude.
Yeah, leave your ego at the door, right? There's no place for it.
Write that down too.
That's great.
And say that you haven't gotten to work on a lot of stuff yet. You're just coming out of school. You're probably, there's not a lot on the reel. That's like professional level stuff, big projects. What are some of the things that you should be focusing on as you pursue larger stuff?
Oh, well, larger stuff in the sense of getting to work on like a project with other people. I feel like my answer would be the same if you are at home, like collaborating with some people, or at the biggest studio and you've been there forever. Something that has helped me a ton is after I was at ILM for maybe 9 or 10 years, I stopped asking to work on certain movies and started asking to work with certain people. And even if the movie was a movie I thought probably wasn't going to be all that great, I know that I could learn a ton from her, so I want to work on that movie. Or this guy did this shot that blew my mind. I really want to learn from him. So my advice would be to try to embrace that and seek out people that you respect, mentors that you admire, or if you're at a studio, a supervisor that you think is nurturing and is interested in helping people grow, which isn't all supervisors. But when you see someone like that, I don't know, I would try to follow that person as long as you can and learn everything you can. That's a much better path to growth than just, I want to work on this movie because it's going to be a big movie, or I know that game is going to be an awesome game. It's better to pick a person.
Yeah, remember, everybody thought Pocahontas was going to be the big hit and Lion King was going to be the dog.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true. Yeah, that is true. And you also, in light of that, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You might think you're working on the best movie ever, and it is not.
I also think you can apply that in a way to the shots that you get or the assignments you get right up front when you first step in your junior level animator, design artist, whatever it is, right? So your first shot is maybe just a look over the shoulder. Or it's, you're going to draw some rocks. But it's bringing your best self to that and not feeling like you're above that and doing the best, because when your supervisors see that you do the best work you can on those tiny little shots and background assignments and things like that, that's when they'll feel confident to give you the next. But when you start to just kind of brush that to the side and be like, I'm better than this, they're never going to assign you a bigger shot because you're not accomplishing the small shot and getting the best out of this tiny thing that you can show.
I would also say fall in love with the studio, not necessarily the production that you're on. Right? Fall in love with the culture, fall in love with ILM, fall in love with Blue Sky, because you won't have control over what film you're being crewed to. So you might work on a show, like when I was at Sony, we did Polar Express, The Christmas of the Living Dead. And every animator on that show hated being on that show.
My kids love that movie. Just for the record, we watch that a lot.
Yeah, but it's tough. It's tough. But the animators who went onto that show and kicked ass and worked hard and didn't complain and weren't in the supervisor's office complaining about the shots, when that supervisor got his next film, which was Surf's Up, which was a dream job, those are the people that he pulled in. Those are the people that he could trust. They were the ones who he knew he could throw anything at and they would be fine because they'd gone through hell already. So be careful about, your attitude will show. It may not be the most glamorous shot. I don't care. Treat it like it's gold and do it the best you possibly can. There's the sentiment, everybody makes the coffee, right? In a good animation studio, in a good culture, We all look out for each other. We all make the coffee. We all understand that at some point we're going to work on something that's not maybe what we want to, but we need to for the betterment of the studio.
That's awesome. I want to spin off something you said a little earlier of falling in love with the studio. I want to take it in a direction when you're applying for a studio. I feel like a lot of people, like when I was a student, I was like, oh, like this studio, I want to work here. And I was blind to everything else. And I imagine you can probably tell as a recruiter when that happens, but can you speak a little bit to that mentality, falling in love with the studio maybe too early, or if that's a good thing?
The irony is we have two people on this panel who have never worked anywhere else. They've only
I
been
love
at
ILM. I like it. That's all I ever wanted to do. I don't know. I'll work somewhere else someday, I hope.
I tried that already. Shawn.
Let me try a more direct version of that. Keeping your sights broad and looking at lots of possibilities, there's nothing wrong with like loving a studio and wanting to work there. Like having a dream job is not a bad thing. I don't want to mislead you there.
I think it's more important that you realize what kind of art you want to do, right? Like, are you a TV designer, or are you a feature animation storyboard artist? Are you a creatures animator, or are you an acting performance animator? Like, those are the things you need to concentrate on rather than the studio. Yes, the studio culture and where the studio is, those could be other pieces of, important things for you to think of. But it might not be the place that you are going to get into in your first step in your career, but putting yourself on that path to potentially get there one day is what's important. And also, as an animator, especially like feature animation, like that's your job, like 40 hours a week, if not more, to just animate. Like, you're not modeling, you're not rigging, you're animating. So if you're not passionate about big performance and animation, then you don't want to be in a feature animation studio. You might want to go into a commercial studio where you can, be a generalist. So it's those kind of things that I'd say to focus on right now in terms of your goals, and then and then industry from there, and then maybe one day focus on that goal of getting to the studio you think is the best. But
Yeah. Recent graduate animators applying to Pixar, not getting the job and being upset about it is like a recent law school grad not getting picked up by the Supreme Court and being upset about it, right? You have to set your expectations. I'm going to work here for a couple of years, and then I'm going to go there, and then I'm going to build my career. It's a stepping stone. It may not be the most glamorous job. Take it, crush it, build a reputation, move on.
Okay, this is a person who's been at ILM for a long time, but I still think it's important that when you apply to a studio that I truly believe that you still have to really want to work there. There's a lot of great studios. There's not just one, there's a lot. So there's something about each studio that, and more than one thing that you like about that studio. And so I think it's important for you to show that, because you do want to authentically apply at a studio because you want to be there. And it's going to show in your work and your attitude and your interest and your work habits. So, think about that, and think about, okay, even if it's, not the place you want to end up at like 10 years or 15 years, but there's a good reason why you're there, and you should take advantage of that and the goodness of that studio.
Every studio, every project is a learning opportunity. It doesn't matter what it is. So even if you can just selfishly take it as your own personal, like, this movie is going to be awful, then maybe the way that you get through that is just you internalize a almost selfish kind of approach where you're going to do the best job you can and get the best reel you can out of this, and you're going to learn as much as you can from everybody on this project, and that's what that project is going to be for you.
I think also think about the people that you're working with. I think that's probably the best thing about a studio are the people there. And when you're working on really hard projects, there's a camaraderie and there's a special bond with those people that you work with. And think about that, when you're at a studio and you're starting out, because I bet a lot of those early careers are very special because of the people that you worked with. and you'll remember them for the rest of your life, for the rest of your career.
Also, when we go hiring, I mean, I can't speak to the rest of you, but I ask for referrals, right? So I go to my animation mentor supervisors, right? So the people who are working on the teams I was supporting, if they're animation mentor supervisors or mentors, who are your best students, right? Let me talk to those guys. That's the first thing I do. I reach out to my existing crew and say, who would you like to work with? So you want to become one of those people like, no, I want to work with him again or her again.
I should have mentioned this earlier. This panel is hosted by Animation Mentor, the online animation school. So shout out. Probably should have said that at the beginning. I went there. It's good. I think we want to open up to questions because we got about 10 minutes left. I want to get as many questions as we can get from you guys because I'm sure there's more stuff that you'd like to know. So let's do it. Hands up. What do you guys want to know?
So when you're saying to say okay to the director, but like, what if you actually have like a question? You actually want to understand better the vision of the director. Should I raise that question or should I keep it to myself and then go talk to my supervisor? Like, how would I approach?
The question is if it's a situation where you got a note from a director and you have an actual question to try to understand better what the note is. I think it depends a little bit on the vibe and the situation and how quick that meeting is going or how busy that director is and stuff like that. In most cases, you're probably not getting that note all by yourself. There's probably other people with you, your supervisor and lead. And so in most cases, you would just say, okay. And then later you would have a little powwow of like, well, what the hell did he mean when he said this? But if you, in your heart, feel like, oh my gosh, I really need to know this, then it depends a little bit on the etiquette of that studio and meeting. You might pass a note to your supervisor that says, can we ask this or something? Or if it's a situation where you can be bold and just say it, then it's probably okay to say it, but that shouldn't be like a regular situation.
Let's say you're finding some work from where you're from, or like, let's say you're in a town where you don't really have a lot of artwork or like jobs centered around that, but what you find isn't really optimal. Example, I'm from Colorado and I'm a storyboard artist, but mostly character design is work that I've been getting. Is there some sort of tips we can do? What tips can I do to get better at storyboarding where I'm from? Or should I just accept any kind of job and kind of just put it together and just say, hey, this is what I can do?
So we're lucky enough, we hire a lot of freelance storyboard artists, and we really don't care where they're located. If you're looking for experience storyboarding, right, just so you have something to show you can do it, one of my heads of story would take classic movie scenes, like from Psycho or from whatever else, and board it from a different camera's perspective. And that was able to show us, like, oh, A, he's using the camera to propel the story forward, and B, he has the aesthetic, right? He knows what the vibe is of this film. So even if you don't have professional storyboard work, you can still storyboard, you can still practice, you can still get critiques on that stuff, and submit that to us.
I want to add one more thing. There's also a lot of workshops and stuff online that you can take. Like I think Animation Mentor has a story workshop. So if you're looking for things like that, workshops are a great way to learn if you're not sure what kind of exercises.
Okay. When you first sign on to like a big company or like any kind of company, what was the hardest thing that you had to adjust to going from like different companies?
Yeah. Two of you have never changed.
I went to ILM from a small game studio actually, and that was a mega cultural shift. So yeah, I think when I was talking about learning the hierarchy and stuff, I think I say that because for a while I was floundering, not knowing whose notes I should be giving the most credence to, and stuff like that. So yeah, I think for me it was that, and then just getting a thicker skin, which I didn't have. So being in dailies and terrified for a year, where all these way more experienced animators are sitting around me and they're showing my crappy blocking up on the screen, and it was terrifying for me. So one of the things we tried to do with Animation Mentor is prepare you guys better for you actually get feedback all along the way, which isn't really the way that we learned when we were in school. We weren't ready for that. So hopefully that helps, but I think trying to remember that it's not personal when you're getting those notes would be helpful when you're new somewhere.
Nice. Outside of CTN, what is the best way we can network with other animators and recruiters such as yourselves, at least when potential jobs may be coming down the pipeline? What is the best way to kind of reach out, and when?
Well, there is another animation event that takes place somewhere around here. You might go to that one. I don't know if we're allowed to mention the name.
There's another one in August.
There's another one in August.
There's other,
That's pretty good.
There's one in France. There's one in Germany.
Also, you have a computer. Brand yourself. Reach out to us. Reach out to, and it drives me crazy when someone will say, I really want to work at ILM, but I've never talked to anybody who's worked there. Like, why not? Find them on LinkedIn. Send them a message. I'm a big fan of what you do there. Talk to me about your experience, right? Develop those relationships. Even when you're in school, you should be reaching out to us recruiters. Like if you're just talking to us in May of your senior year, that's awfully late. Like junior year, start reaching out. What do you guys look for in Reels? What's your culture like? You know, you may not get a response from every one of us because we're flooded, but every once in a while a recruiter will be like, I got this one. And we'll send a message out. Like, this is what we look for. This is what that studio looks for. I want to know who you are before you graduate. I want to know what your character is. I want to know what your passions are. I want all of that stuff before you come into the interview. So you've got access to all of us. We're all online. Find us, start those relationships up early.
I would also join other organizations like Women in Animation. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have to be a woman to join that organization. You know, your alumni group at whatever school you went to, that's another, you know, kind of group. You want to start networking, and like you said, you know, other than that, apply as an intern, you know. Getting an internship is so helpful, not just experience-wise, but the connections you make with that studio and all the other people that you've worked with at that studio. I mean, and your friends, reach out to your friends, you know.
Use Twitter, use Instagram, and you don't have to be salesy and gross about it. You can just participate in the conversation. Follow animators, follow artists you admire, and when they share cool stuff, just like it and be like, that's awesome. Love to know more about that. You do that for a while, people start to know who you are and be like, oh, I kind of know this guy, I think he's a student. We've looked at his work. And it's just being a human.
Yeah.
Animators are busy, so they might not get back to you right away, but they're also mostly pretty nice people. And I don't know very many animators that would consciously decide not to answer a question if you manage to find them online and send them a question. I think people are pretty open. It's not too bad.
It should be very courteous.
What about for those who are no longer at college or a student, and how can they apply to places that only have internships? Excuse me. That only have internships, and they require that you have to be in school still.
Well, not everyone offers internships. Some people offer training programs, right? Trainee programs that are postgraduate. Like, I'll do a shameless plug for what we're doing at Netflix. Next year, we're starting a program that only wants graduating, right? 1 to 3 years experience in the industry, and we'll offer a full-time, full-benefited staff position, come in, work for 6 months for a year as a trainee, and then we can look to move you on to a show. So this is a question of digging into various studios and see what their training opportunities are.
I think there's also plenty of junior level roles that open up. It's all about timing, right, and production, and kind of following the different studios and kind of keeping an eye on those job boards for those junior level positions that open up, or temp positions, or you know, show hire positions that they might be open to hiring in a more junior level person. But you know, don't look to getting a full-time job as the way to build up your reel. Like, just continue to do work on the side, and you know, create your shots or, you know, other work in your portfolio, and just continue to build on that. So that way, the next time, you know, if you apply today and then 6 months from now, like, the recruiters can see like growth too on your reel. So, because you could be, you know, in a totally different world and, you know, just doing a job just to do the job, waiting for your kind of chance to get in. So just keep building more animation mentor classes, or, you know, I don't know.
I was going to say, volunteer on someone's independent project. There's a lot of people in here that are working on their own film, you know, projects. Volunteer even, or, you know, it might be a paid gig, but, you know, look for those opportunities as well.
Yeah, even if you're remote. Artella, a platform that you can do stuff no matter where you live. So if you traveled here, look it up. Do we have time for one more question?
She's had her hand up like since the beginning.
Do it.
Yeah.
Hi, I was wondering, I've seen some demo reels in which people, like with action shots, shots that don't require one camera angle, I've seen them do like multiple camera angles, orthographic views in succession. I was wondering, do you like seeing that kind of thing, or would you rather there's just the best camera angle for the shot?
I think that might be more specifically appropriate for a games job.
Yeah.
I think games would be really interested in seeing that action from a bunch of angles, where in film, I think probably mostly we're all going to just want to see it from the camera that you've chosen to best highlight that action and silhouette those poses just the way that you wanted and tell the story the way that you wanted.
Do you want camera animation in like a shot that's linear through time and the camera changes? Do you want that, or one locked off camera?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah.
It's about the animation.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the camera, it's about the story, right, and the telling of it.
If you are animating that camera, though, you need to be animating it well and doing those edit cuts for a reason for your storytelling. But if the camera is done well, sure, it's not bad. But I also don't think it's totally essential to getting an animation job, at least not for us.
No.
Well, thank you all for being here. Thank our wonderful panelists. And thank you to Animation Mentor for putting this on for us.
Thanks, everybody.
If you learned something from this video, I have an entire series of interviews with people in the industry, other animators and artists, linked down below that you can check out and watch through, as well as a ton of other videos, tutorials, tech reviews, other advice, and hopefully helpful stuff. So hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out. Again, I'll link to Animation Mentor down below. Thank you guys so much for letting me record and share this with the community. And thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.